Hi, I'm Chris Hackala, the Director for the Center for Teaching and Learning, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to maximize student engagement. One of the biggest concerns faculty have about student engagement is they get a classroom, and the classroom looks like this. They have rows of students and the faculty members at the front. What that ends up generating is a situation where the faculty member is the focus of everybody's attention, and the students are all there watching the faculty member and not engaging in what's going on. This kind of classroom is the traditional classroom. It's what we've all grew up with, what we see in elementary schools, we see in high schools. But at Quinnipiac University, what we're really trying to do is generate an environment where students are engaged with the faculty member, engaged with the ideas, where the students are really focusing on not the content in the sense of just memorizing the content, but how to take that content and make more of it. This whole notion of critical thinking is key here, and we're trying to get students to learn how to take these concepts and translate them to other contexts, to translate them to other situations, and really make use of them. This kind of classroom can work, and you can actually engage students in conversation in this kind of classroom, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Ultimately, one of the best things you can do in a classroom like this, if these are desks, is try to arrange the classroom in such a way so the faculty member is not the focal point. Faculty member can be over here, and the students can be in pods like this, where they're facing each other. Or you can have a classroom like this, where the faculty member is in the middle, and the student desks are all around. Or a classroom where all the desks are all around, and the faculty member is sitting at a desk. All of these three arrangements remove the faculty member from being the focal point and provide the students with the idea that it's a shared classroom experience, and it's not just focusing on the concepts that are presented on the board or by the faculty member, but it's a shared community of learners all trying to engage in the content. Now, if your classroom is in fact like this and you can't move anything around, one of the things that you can do is try to use some active learning techniques. These active learning techniques are all designed to engage students in ways that, again, do that critical thinking, help students learn how to approach material effectively, help students learn how to tackle problems, understand complexity. So I'm going to give just a couple of examples today. One is sometimes called TPS, that's Think, Pair, Share. This is a situation where students in a classroom like this can actually work with a partner across desks and have a conversation about a particular topic. The way you structure the Think, Pair, Share is students will be given an idea or a concept. They'll think about it for a minute, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Then they pair up with someone. They talk about what they came up with, their own ideas, and then they share it out to the classroom. Now, you can do it in lots of different ways, and you can do it in writing, you can do it orally. The idea is just to get the students have the opportunity to think, to talk to someone else, and then to share out with the class. If you have a particularly conservative class, the students don't want to talk very much, they're very concerned about their opinions being thrown out there, one of the things you can do in the Think, Pair, Share is you can have students think, pair, and then when they share, if they have written concepts down, they can share their concepts with another student in here, and the student can read out their ideas, so you can't see who the ideas belong to, but rather you just get the ideas out. The Think, Pair, Share is very, very common, very popular. Students really seem to like it. You can also engage in something called speed dating, which many of you know about from movies and from TV shows, etc. But in the academic setting, what you do is you have students sit one on one side of the desk and another student on the other side of the desk, and you give them a very short amount of time to talk about a focused idea. The student will talk about that focused idea with the other student. You sound a bell, ring an alarm, they move to the next table, they have a conversation on the same topic with another student, and they go through several different iterations of this. At the end, you ask students to report out what it is they experienced, what ideas they liked, what they didn't like, and how the conversations went. The idea of this, the speed dating, is to get students to consider how to engage in conversations, do it quickly, be succinct, and gather information from other people. The speed dating idea is really good when you want to do brainstorming. A third technique is called a QFT, or question formulation technique. Now, the QFT is a technique where you're helping students generate questions. What you do in the QFT is you try to get your students grouped in a situation like this as best you can. Even here, you can have students turn and cluster around the classrooms. And you give students a question. The students take that question, and from that question, they generate as many questions as they can about that initial question. They keep generating questions and writing them down. I often do it on a big sheet of paper. And when they're done, they have generated a number of questions that are all based on the first question you asked. Students take those questions and then they switch those questions with another group. The other group takes those questions that those students had and they rank order the questions in terms of how interesting they find the questions. Once they have it down to 2 or 3 questions in each group, then they nominate questions for the class to discuss. Now you've got everybody involved, not just in terms of generating questions, but in discussing and deciding which questions are the most effective ones to discuss, and then you can vote till you get to one question and use that as a discussion point. Now what you've done is you've created a buy-in by the students because they're all invested in what those questions are, they're invested in what question you ultimately end up with, and so they all tend to have more of an opinion of that. Now these 3 techniques work no matter what your classroom setup is. As I mentioned earlier, these 3 classroom setups tend to provide for more range of discussion, but you can do these 3 with any kind of classroom setup. Always remember, when you're looking at a teaching and learning issue, the goal is for students to engage the content, not just memorize it. As Dan Willingham, who was here just recently when he gave a talk, said, there's a distinction between memory and thinking. We do a lot of things on memory. We remember how to get dressed. We remember how to drive. All of those things, we're able to access the memory and execute the behavior. What we want our students to do is not just to be able to remember something and execute it. We want them to be able to think about it, consider alternative explanations, consider that there might be different ways to approach a problem, consider how to be flexible and nimble. All of these skills come from engaging with other students. Through these engagements, students understand that their opinion is not the only opinion. Their perspective is developed from their own experiences, and other students have different experiences. And all of these things create a richer environment and ultimately a better learning environment for our students. Thanks.